In the heavy breath of Alaskan summer, when the sun never fully sets and the land hums with the silence of ancient things, 3 seasoned backcountry hikers stepped into the wild. Jacob Miles, a 34-year-old ex-military survivalist with 800 logged miles in extreme terrains. Alina Hart, 29, a wilderness photographer with a deep love for forgotten places, and Ethan Roach, 31, a geology grad student, quiet but clever. The kind of man who studied rocks but believed in ghosts. Together, they set out to explore a stretch of interior Alaska that locals only ever called Devil's Nest. It wasn't on most maps. Just a crooked, horseshoe-shaped valley veiled in old-growth spruce and low permafrost mist. The kind of place where the forest pressed in too tight. Locals called it Badland. Not cursed, not haunted, just wrong. Radios died there. GPS devices froze. The few who hiked through often returned quiet, changed, or not at all. But Jacob had planned everything. 5-day loop, military-grade satellite phones, flare guns, redundant maps and compass backups. They'd filed their route with park services and left nothing to chance. But chance had nothing to do with what waited there. Day 1 was uneventful. They made solid ground, climbed into the lower ridges, and even joked about the Devil name. The terrain was beautiful, eerily untouched. No sign of animals, no bird song. Just the crunch of boots on dry pine needles and a kind of silence that didn't feel empty. It felt like it was listening. Day 2, Alina snapped a photo of something strange. A tree, maybe 50 feet tall, stripped entirely of bark, standing white and raw like bone in the center of a dense grove. Around it, the earth was scorched in a perfect circle. Not fresh, but old. Forgotten. She mentioned the tree that night over the fire. Ethan went pale. Said he'd seen something like it in an old Tlingit myth. A calling tree. A marker, maybe. Or a warning. Jacob brushed it off. That night they heard singing, not far off. A woman's voice. Soft, drifting, wordless. An old tune full of sorrow. Melancholy. At first they thought it was another group, but there were no other parties on the registry. They called out. No answer. The woods remained still. Jacob circled the camp twice, rifle in hand. Nothing. And yet the fire flickered oddly all night. The flame bending sideways, as if pushed by wind none of them could feel. At one point, Alina gasped, eyes locked to the trees. She swore she saw someone. Pale, tall, moving, not walking, gliding between the trunks, eyes like glass, just for a moment. Jacob didn't sleep that night. Day 3, things began to unravel. When they returned to their camp after scouting a nearby ridge, they found it in ruins. Tents ripped open from the inside out. Supplies scattered. Food untouched. The fire pit cold despite having been active only an hour prior. No signs of struggle, no tracks, not even their own. Jacob tried the sat phone. Dead. Ethan's compass spun lazily. Their GPS showed the same coordinates no matter where they went, as if the entire valley had collapsed in on itself. They tried navigating by the sun, but the light bent strangely through the mist. No shadows fell straight. Every path they took circled back. That night, the voice came again. Closer now. Not singing, but whispering. Come home, it said. A woman's voice just beyond the light. You've been gone too long. Jacob fired a warning shot into the trees. The forest swallowed the sound. No echo. No birds fled. Nothing moved. At dawn, Ethan was gone. No scream in the night, no rustling, no struggle. Just gone. His pack sat neatly by the cold fire pit, zipped shut, his boots missing, his journal left open on a nearby rock, the last thing he'd written. It's inside the trees. I think it knows my name. Jacob and Alina scoured the area for hours. No drag marks, no blood. The only sign was a single set of bare footprints, deep and dark, leading into the thickest part of the woods, and ending abruptly after 10 paces. They had no choice but to keep moving. Day 4, they no longer spoke. Jacob had gone cold, mechanical. Alina was shaken, slow, her eyes darting to every sound. They had stopped using names, afraid to hear them repeated. That night, the voice returned, but it wasn't her anymore. It was Ethan. "Alina," it whispered. "Jake, I'm just ahead. You can find me. I'm not alone." The voice came from all sides, behind trees, under rocks, above them in the canopy. A chorus of Ethan's voice, twisted, slightly too fast, slightly too wet. They huddled by the fire, but the flame sputtered. Cold crept in. Unnatural, bone deep. Snowflakes fell through the forecast, had promised clear skies. Something moved in the distance, too tall to be a man, too quiet to be a beast. They saw the calling tree again, only this time it wasn't alone. Figures stood beneath it, motionless, watching. Day 5. Alina woke up alone. No Jacob, no gear, just the remnants of the camp and Ethan's jacket wrapped around her shoulders, though she didn't remember putting it on. She walked for what felt like days, hearing voices in every stream, every creaking branch, every gust through the trees. When the bush pilot found her 10 days later, standing barefoot in the middle of a gravel bar, arms limp at her sides, she was unresponsive, wrapped in Ethan's jacket, frostbitten, eyes glazed over. She was murmuring a lullaby in a language no one could place. She never said what happened, never spoke of the woods again. Today, Devil's Nest is marked as restricted land. Environmental instability, the signs say. But the rangers know better. Some have heard it too. The singing, the voice that knows your name, the one that sounds like a friend who's been dead for years. So if you ever wander too far north, and the woods go too quiet, and something starts to sing, don't listen, don't answer, and never follow the voice. Late October 2021. Monongahela National Forest, West Virginia. By late October, the highlands of Monongahela go quiet, not peaceful, dead. The kind of silence that makes your eardrums ring. The kind that convinces your ancient instincts that something is watching and waiting. Chris Weller was no rookie. He'd hiked nearly every major backwoods trail in the eastern United States. A soloist by nature, Chris found serenity in isolation. Nature, he said, was the one place where you could truly hear yourself. But on October 21st, 2021, Chris entered a stretch of wilderness that doesn't like to be listened to. Black Hollow Trail. 18 miles of winding switchbacks, crumbling ridgelines, forgotten ranger posts, and a canopy so thick it steals daylight by noon. They say the trail got its name because even in full sun, it feels like twilight. Locals just call it the Echo Trail, and not fondly. Day 1, footsteps in the moss. Chris's final trip started like any other. GPS tracking on, GoPro strapped to his chest. His first video log was upbeat. Mid-50s today, trees are fire bright. Haven't seen a single soul out here, just the way I like it. Black Hollow's got a weird vibe though. I don't know. Feels like the trees are leaning in. His last known position was logged near mile marker 7, a ridgeline clearing used by old forest rangers back in the 60s. He pitched camp, made a fire, and filmed himself reading from a paperback. But if you watch the footage closely, around minute 4, you see something in the tree line behind him, barely visible, a pale face, watching. It vanishes when he turns. Day 2. Something in the dark. Chris's satellite tracker shows strange behavior the following day. He veers off course, makes 2 full circles within a 2-mile radius. His journal entries grow erratic. Heard a voice in the woods last night. Thought it was a person, but it was me. Or something trying to sound like me. Found footprints, same boots as mine, but I've only walked here once. Trees are whispering, not the wind. Not squirrels, whispers. Real ones, that was his last written note, on a damp, torn page near the back of his waterproof journal. Just below the rest, in hard, frantic pencil strokes, it mimics me. The encounter, Grace Layton. 2 days before Chris's disappearance, another hiker, Grace Layton, came forward with a story that shattered the search narrative. She'd been section hiking near the southern bend of Black Hollow. Fog had rolled in thick as milk, reducing visibility to almost nothing. That's when she saw a man walking barefoot down the trail. He was limping, head cocked at an unnatural angle, arms loose at his sides like they'd been detached and sloppily reattached. He didn't blink, didn't speak, until she said, "Sir, are you all right?" His head twitched. His mouth moved like it was trying to remember how to be a mouth. Then, flat as granite, "Don't look behind you." She didn't. She ran until her lungs bled. Search and rescue. Something is calling. Rescue teams reached Chris's last GPS ping on October the 27th. What they found was wrong. His tent was intact, neatly staked. The flap was open, unzipped. His boots were inside, his pack untouched. Even his food, still vacuum sealed. No blood, no tracks, no signs of struggle, just absence, like he'd been plucked from the world. Then came the screams. The first night in the search grid, 3 rangers reported hearing a sound they described as not human, but trying. It started as a low moan, rising into a piercing shriek that cracked like glass through the woods. Branches shook, leaves fell, animals bolted. But the most disturbing part? The screams were in Chris's voice, except wrong, slurred, like a puppet trying to remember how to scream, like it had too many lungs. The GoPro. Final recording. On October 30th, a SAR volunteer spotted something reflecting in a tree hollow. A GoPro, still strapped to a twisted piece of paracord, half buried in lichen. The last video file was 11 minutes long, time-stamped 2 days after Chris went missing. It opens with him building camp again, breathing hard, eyes wide with paranoia. Something's out here. I saw it. Looks like me, walks like me, but it's not right. It won't speak unless I do. It follows. It learns. Then he freezes. Looks to his right. Off camera, a voice says. His own voice. Perfect. You shouldn't be here. He screams. The camera tumbles. You see nothing but dirt and pine needles. But the audio keeps going. Chris is crying now, whispering over and over, "It's me. It's me. It's me. It's me." Then a heavy rustling. Something large. Wet-sounding footsteps. Then silence. Until a second voice, identical to the first, whispers, "You came alone. You left yourself." And finally, in the last 5 seconds, a sound that defies description. A laugh, high-pitched, echoing, giddy like a child watching something die. Then, static. Epilogue. The trail that keeps you. Chris Weller was never found. No trace, no body, no answers. But he's still seen. Hikers claim they've spotted him in the woods, barefoot, slack-jawed, always just behind a tree. Sometimes he warns people to leave. Sometimes he just watches. Locals avoid Black Hollow now. They say the forest keeps a copy of every hiker who dies or disappears inside it. Not a ghost, not a spirit. A version, empty-eyed, hungry to be real. They call it Echo Trail because it doesn't just echo your footsteps, it echoes you. And if you ever hear your own voice coming from somewhere in the trees, run, because something is trying to become you. And in those woods, one of you has to go. The winter of 2015 was brutal in Wyoming. Temperatures plummeted below zero every night, and the Wind River Range was buried beneath a thick crust of snow and silence. It wasn't a place for the casual hiker that time of year, but that didn't stop Tyler, Sarah, Mark, and Jen. Two couples, all experienced in winter backcountry travel, all eager for a 2-day escape from civilization. They weren't reckless. All four had avalanche training, carried beacons and satellite phones, and even left an itinerary with friends. This was supposed to be routine, beautiful, remote, yes, but manageable. They planned to snowshoe to a high alpine basin, camp for a night, then loop back the next morning. But nature doesn't care about plans. The first day was uneventful, even serene. The frozen world around them glittered with untouched snow, and laughter echoed off the cliffs. They reached the basin just before sundown, pitched their tent near a stand of frostbitten trees, and boiled snow for cocoa. By midnight, the storm arrived. Snow hammered down in waves, and the wind screamed like it was alive. The tent shuddered with every gust, and visibility dropped to nothing. That's when Tyler unzipped the tent, grumbling that he needed to pee. He pulled on his coat, boots, headlamp, and vanished into the white. They waited. 5 minutes. 10. 20. Ty? Sarah called, sticking her head into the flurry. No response, only the roar of wind through the trees. She turned back, pale. "I think I heard him," she whispered. "Saying something. I think he's calling for help." Mark and Jen froze. "What do you mean?" She turned slowly. "I heard whispering, like, 'Please, help.'" They threw on their gear and grabbed flashlights. Tyler's tracks were still visible, punched into the snow, veering toward a ridge. They followed them, carefully, methodically, for nearly 300 yards. Then the tracks just stopped, mid-stride. No sign of struggle, no slide, no fall. Just gone. One foot in front of the other, and then nothing but wind-blown white. They called his name, screamed it, fired off a flare. Nothing. Shaken, they returned to camp, dread crawling up their spines like frostbite. Something was off. The air felt wrong, heavy, listening. That night, no one slept. At 3:41 a.m., something began moving around the tent. It started with a faint crinkle, the nylon tent walls flexing inward as if something brushed them from outside. Then came the circling, slow, deliberate. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Mark whispered, "Tyler," as Jen clutched his arm, trembling. They unzipped a window flap. The storm had eased. Moonlight spilled across the clearing. They saw nothing, but the crunching continued, around and around. Then it stopped. Dead silence. They barely breathed. Dawn came like a blessing, but when they emerged, they stopped cold. Surrounding their tent in a wide ring were footprints. Barefoot, human-shaped, but wrong. Too long, too wide, and each print had 6 toes. Sarah dropped to her knees and touched one. The impression was fresh, deep. Warmth had still radiated from the snow. They broke camp in less than 5 minutes, adrenaline overriding exhaustion, packs half-fastened, boots still damp. They began the march back, but they weren't alone. Every so often they heard it, a soft shuffle in the trees above them, something keeping pace, hiding. At one point, Sarah turned, breath freezing midair. There, on the ridge behind them, it stood. A figure, pale, crouched and naked. But this wasn't Tyler. Its skin was a shade of sickly bluish white. like something that had never seen sunlight. It was gaunt, almost skeletal, but moved like it had too many joints. Its arms were long, too long, and its eyes were all black. No whites, just wide, unblinking pupils. It didn't move until she looked at it. Then it tilted its head slowly, like a curious animal, and with a jolt of horror, she saw it drop to all fours and begin scuttling down the rock face like a spider. She screamed. The others didn't look back. They ran. For hours. They didn't stop until the trailhead emerged from the trees like a ghost. A rescue team arrived within the hour after they triggered their GPS beacon. The story they told the rangers was met with frowns, disbelief, snow blindness, hallucinations, grief trauma. They searched for Tyler. No body, no gear, no trace. Just a single barefoot print with 6 toes found 400 yards from the camp. The rangers never reported that publicly, but one of them, a rookie, quit a week later. When asked why, he only said, "Something was out there, watching us." The woods weren't empty. Weeks later, another group snowshoeing that same basin called in a report. They had seen a naked man running on all fours through the snow. He dove into a snowbank and vanished. When they searched, nothing was there. No tunnel, no man. But they did find prints. Too big, too long, 6-toed. To this day, hikers still whisper about the Wind River Basin, about the Watcher. They say when the snow falls hard and deep and the trees groan under the weight of silence, you might wake up to find tracks circling your tent. Too long, too wide, too many toes, and if you look up at the ridgeline, you might see something watching you, waiting, and when it moves, you won't believe it's real until it's too late.